So on my recent video about how I ruined my teeth in Mexico and I had to go to a dentist here to fix it, someone left a comment saying, you live in Mexico now? Respectfully, did you leave your husband? And someone went ahead and commented and replied to them and said, which husband? Ha ha ha. And this did not go over well with me. I know the haters have been suffering so badly lately since YouTube went and took away the dislike button. A lot of them are coming out of the woodwork to leave comments, which is great because they get blocked with a swiftness on my channel. Of course, I believe in free speech. I also believe in dealing with the consequences of acting like a jackass. I thought, okay, let me come on here and do what I always do, which is share difficult lessons from my life in hopes that they can help other people. So today we're going to talk about the main lessons I've learned from all of my divorces. So many of you were following, you were a part of my journey for the previous year where I lived in Montana, on a farm in Montana with my husband at the time. I have lived in multi-million-dollar homes. I have stayed in a cabin in the most pristine woods in the Canadian wilderness. I have stayed in a $4,000 a night hotel room. And now I live here in Mexico where it's the same temperature every day, which is hot, beautiful breezes blowing, trees full of flowers. But I have to admit, that farm in Montana is still the most beautiful place I've ever lived. On that farm, I experienced intense transformational beauty like I'd never experienced before. And I also experienced some really intense spiritual growth and realization. I would say the main lesson I learned from that divorce was that I create my own reality for better and for worse. So here's an interesting tale for you. I actually had a map of this farm on my fridge at my little tiny apartment in downtown Calgary for years before I even met my husband and then would eventually end up living there. And we actually didn't realize it until he was helping me pack and prepare to move there. Like, I'm a fan of southern Alberta. I used to live in the Crow's Nest Pass in the mountains, and I wanted a map of, like, you know, all different places that I planned to go. The map was a pretty open map, so it included some of the United States. He was pointing it out to me, showing me things, and we were both just blown away. He even looked almost exactly like my childhood crush, who was a wild man of the woods on TV in the 90s. I had, you know, a herd of cats to take care of, which you all know I'm obsessed with. If you're obsessed with cats, you want to see how things went with them, go and check out my Instagram. I had chickens. I've always wanted chickens. I've always wanted to live in peace and serenity. I've always felt a pull to Montana and southern Alberta. Being able to go to Glacier National Park, being able to be out under the complete blackness and the stars out there at night, that was one of the greatest gifts I've ever been given. But one of the greatest gifts we can learn from painful experiences or divorces are exactly how we feel about ourselves. Like I said, I realized that I was able to create my reality for better. So it was like the perfect situation, but also for worse, right? I had different things going on inside my subconscious mind based on experiences I had from childhood that made me feel that I was not worthy, that the only thing valuable about me was what I could do for other people. I had a part of myself that was self-sabotaging. This was an extremely powerful part. So you have to be very careful when you have self-sabotaging going on the inside. We do these subversive things to hold ourselves back. For me, it was binge eating, procrastination. And when you're treating yourself like that, you're gonna meet people in your world who are doing the same thing to you. People who, just like you, are afraid of the full expression of your beauty, of your power, and the potential for your life. If you are afraid of that, you will attract others who are also afraid of that. So it's completely understandable that I would go out in the world and attract that exact same thing back to me over and over again. Even after years and years of therapy, I really found that all I was doing was learning about how messed up I was, recalling all kinds of memories that, I had suppressed because they were too painful. And then I was just under this burden of all of these discoveries and all of these resurfaced memories, and the tools I was given in therapy just really didn't work. So I really had to come face to face with that in my last divorce. Thankfully, I was able to be in that beautiful nature and really be able to put forth the true intent and desire of healing from all of this. And that was how I found self-hypnosis and working with the subconscious mind. The person I was the most angry at and had to really work to forgive was myself. Now, I had another divorce back in 1989. I would have been, I think, 7 years old. That was when I divorced from the idea that adults in power are all-knowing, they are fair, they are capable, they are just. I became aware that oftentimes people who put themselves in positions of power over others have a lot of mental problems. And I started seeing myself as a sovereign being. I was like, all right, I have to watch out for myself. I have to be self-directed and take my own initiatives in life. I can't just immediately trust whatever someone in authority tells me. Let me tell you how this happened. So we were doing I think it was like a running thing, or however much you ran, people could pledge, and it would go to charity. And so we all got our little kits to go and collect donations. And me and my friends were hanging out in the school, just like, whatever. And I was like, oh, I got an idea. I'm like, I'm gonna go ask Mrs. Barber. Now, she was like a newer teacher in the school. I knew that she stayed after class often. And so I was like, I was like, let's go do it. And they're like, no. And I said, all right, fine, I'll go do it myself. So I went down the hall and knocked on the door, and Mrs. Barber was sitting there, and I walked in. And I said, hi, Mrs. Barber. I was wondering if you would sponsor me for the run. And that was when I noticed that she was looking at me very coldly, with a look that kind of put a chill through my body. And I saw her kind of scan, like kind of look behind me to see if anyone else was there, before she said this to me: why would I ever do that? Now, as a kid, I was used to all kinds of dramatic outbursts and the tyrannical rage from my mother, but this kind of cold disdain from someone in authority who was normally really nice and normal seeming really threw me off. And I didn't answer. And she said, I'm not giving you any money, leave. I just slowly turned around and started walking out of the doorway. Meanwhile, my friends were coming and running down the hall. I guess they had changed their mind. They're like, we're gonna ask too. We changed our mind, we're gonna ask too. So as they were approaching the door, I'm like, no, don't go in there. Like, she said no. And they're like, no. And this was happening all outside the door. So they all go in. They ask, Mrs. Barber, will you sponsor us some money? And I kind of lingered in behind, so I could still kind of see her and see what was going on, because I was like, oh, this is gonna be good. Keep in mind, this is literally seconds after her and I just had this discussion. She looks at my friends, smiles, and says, sure, I think that's a great idea. And my jaw drops, so I'm standing there like, so she looks directly at me with her cold lizard dead eyes and says, Adele, why didn't you ask me to pledge you? And to my credit, I remember going, I did. I was like, no, I did. Now, I was under the impression that adults that were in charge, right? So Sunday school teachers, policemen, judges, other people's parents, just like adults in general. I was under the impression that they knew more than me. They were fair, they were smart, they were capable. And that moment really kind of shattered that reality for me. I'm incredibly grateful from the divorce of that idea, because many people who are still married to the idea of authority and others being greater than or having power over you, they're very easily brought into the system, right? They're controlled by the government, who wants to keep them down, right? That's what the whole purpose of public schooling was in the first place, teaching children how to work 9 to 5, respond to a bell ringing, respond with blind obedience to authority. Now, my divorce from mainstream media is an interesting one. This probably happened when I was in my early 20s. Unfortunately, it did take me that long. I used to be a addicted to magazines. And this was, keep in mind, this was before social media. This was before YouTube. I would get a dopamine hit from all the shiny things, the fantasies. And sometimes I would buy multiple magazines by accident because I had to have each one. Now, could I afford this? No, I was working paycheck to paycheck, right? I didn't have any savings. I didn't have an idea of a future. I was using these fantasies to kind of keep me going in life, but I wasn't actually taking steps towards getting myself out of the situation that I was in. I wasn't really big into like music or movies, but I would partake of them occasionally. If something interesting came out, I would go see it. I used to listen to some popular music. Sometimes there'd be like a popular song I would hear, and I would go and buy the album, the CD, and listen to it. And one of them was this Carrie Hilson album. And she had this song that she did with Lil Wayne. And I remember in the chorus hearing this song, and one day it just hit me, right? It just hit me that this was a subliminal message. And he was kind of like singing, and he said, "Miss Carrie, baby," in the song, right? And I still get chills when I think about that and hear that. Because what I know about the subconscious mind is it takes things literally. So think about that sentence a bit more clear. And then I began looking around at the messages, the feeling I would get when I would listen to this music, any of these like popular songs. I constantly had a headache. I felt tired. My head felt kind of buzzing. It was this energy that kind of felt like it was repressing me. I don't know how else to describe it. Songs glorifying, unhealthy relationships. Songs glorifying being depressed or talking about ending one's life, right? That was big in the 90s, the grunge and everything else too, right? There was also the music of the 90s about lust and all that. That really turned me off because I saw that firsthand in my mother's behavior. So I learned that lesson already. But I had a lot of friends who were influenced by this kind of thing. I remember one time in a junior high school dance, there was an adult man as a DJ at a dance. Again, I think about these dances that they held at the school and the music they were playing and trying to mimic a nightclub. And this is a Catholic school too, by the way. And I'm just appalled, honestly. Their destructive agenda couldn't be more clear if they just wrote it out on the blackboard, like, "We are trying to destroy your life." I was like 14. My friend and I went up to the DJ. She's like, "I want to request a song." I was like, "Okay." So this DJ's like, "Hey, what can I play for you?" She's like, "Boys to Men, I Will Make Love to You." And the DJ goes, "Will you?" And she giggled. This is like a 30-something-year-old man. So I've realized for a really long time that this society is a death. I especially hate Netflix. Recently, I had to get Netflix. Unfortunately, I signed up for 1 month only because I needed to watch the movie Ip Man for my Wing Chun class. Instructor, he's like, "You watch the Ip Man movie and write like a short essay about it and bring it to the next class." And I was like, oh God, I'm gonna have to go on Netflix. So I watched the movie Ip Man, which I really liked. It's like the Chinese Gladiator, but then I got taken in. I did it. I knew I shouldn't have done it, but I decided to watch that series Becoming Anna, where she's pretending to be that fake socialite who scammed everyone out of money. I was just so curious about it, and I'm watching it, and I can't stop seeing all the little subliminal messages that they put in there to try and virtue signal, but what it actually is doing is oppressing people and putting negativity into their subconscious mind. There's this one scene where she's like lying there with her friend, this other girl. The girl is a so-called black girl, and they're just talking, and Anna, the blonde girl, she says something like, "Sometimes you just have to take a leap and the parachute will appear." And then her friend says in this really, I swear I could picture the director saying, "Okay, now say it again, but this time do it a little more black." She was like, "Oh, the black girl from Chicago, I ain't never got a parachute for nothing." Can you believe? Now, this is just a quick little thing that just happened in a movie, nothing. If you don't know what to look for, you would have completely missed it. But for me, I was like, oh, wow. Yet people are sitting here letting their children watch these Squid Games, and they're watching all these movies about the world ending. They know exactly what they're doing. Look, they're gonna have all these movies, all the zombie movies and the apocalypse movies. What do you think they're doing? They know the power of the human mind to create things in reality, right? I also recently had a divorce from gluten. Yes, that occurred last week. I have been, oh man, fatigued and foggy and irritable my entire life. And when I first moved to Mexico, this is almost 3 months ago, I had to adapt my way of eating. So pretty much what I eat only is like chicken, vegetables, rice, and oatmeal and fruits and all my little vitamin supplements. That's it. And I'm getting all the beautiful vitamin D from the sun and the workouts that I'm doing and all the walking. But I was like, man, I feel better than I ever had in a long time. Now, this is also due to the self-hypnosis practice that I've developed. But I started having this experience where I was like, okay, I am working out so much that this diet is not cutting it for me. Like after I come back from the dojo, I am exhausted and really hungry. So I was trying to think, what could I add to my diet to kind of help me out in that way? So I added eggs, and I also added like sprouted organic bread that I would toast and put like a pure peanut butter and some raw honey. So yeah, I was like, this will be great. I woke up in the morning and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna work out today, so I'm gonna be working out soon. Let me eat my little toast. I was feeling great, I was feeling fine, I was working. I ate the toast, and within like half an hour, I immediately began to feel extremely sleepy. So I had to take a siesta. And then for the rest of the day, and actually for a few days after, I felt foggy, irritable, and depressed in a way that I hadn't in a really long time. So what I learned from my divorce from gluten is that oftentimes in our life, we can attribute personality traits like laziness or irritability to things that are actually just going on with our body. So we really have to look at all aspects of our life if we really want to see change in our environment, on the screen of space, the reality that we're creating. So I hope this video about all of my divorces clears up any questions for you and helps improve your life in some way. I could definitely make a part 2 to this. I have had so many beneficial divorces in my life. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that actually. I am heading out to the market now. It is a beautiful, thriving, richly colored experience for the senses. And I'm actually gonna take a video and bring you along for that. So make sure you subscribe and like this video. Leave a comment below, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.